2 straight practices for Dylan Lonergan that shows that he is ready to win that starting quarterback job.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you want news, analysis, and scoops, you are in the right place. We are a daily Boston College podcast, available 5 days a week, free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. We've got a lot to talk about today. 2 new members of the staff, and they're people you know. We're going to talk kickers, who's looking good so far and who has work to do. Freshmen who are looking strong. We have some names that Bill O'Brien brought up. And Dylan Lonergan takes a huge step. Let's kick it off with quarterback talk. Now, if you were listening to my show last week, I said 2 things. I said, first of all, Grayson James looks like he had the better practice later in the week when a few of the first ones looked like it was pretty even. But then I also said, it's one practice, and I don't want you to overreact to one practice. Now, I've sat through 2 practices in the last, 3 days, and I have to say, in those 2 practices, Dylan Lonergan is starting to heat up. I'm not saying that he's leading Grayson James yet, but I will say he's really making it interesting. Because on Tuesday, I thought Dylan Lonergan had the better practice. I also thought he is starting to show an understanding of the offense. And what I mean by this, what I saw last week with Lonergan was a lot of checked out stuff. Like, he just would, he'd roll out, make a, read, then just immediately check it down. You need more in your offense than that. You do want that. That's obviously something good, and I thought that was something Tommy Castellanos always struggled with. But you still want to push the ball downfield, and that was something Grayson James did, I thought, better during the first week than Dylan Lonergan did. Last 2 practices have been very different. He is moving the ball effectively. He's getting the ball downfield. He's seeing things. He's finding his receivers. And I think I'm seeing a lot of things I like. So while at the end of last week, it was like James is starting to maybe eke a little bit further. This week, it feels like Lonergan's even things out. On Tuesday's practice, we saw him not only make throws plays with his arm, which we definitely saw some. We also saw him doing things with his legs. He runs very well. Grayson James does too. Neither of these guys are statues when it comes to quarterbacks, but he moves the ball very quickly when it comes to running, and he had a rushing touchdown. Now, again, flip side of this, Grayson James also had the play of the week of the practice on Tuesday, where he did, I think it was an RPO, and he kept it. And me, the staff, the defense, all of us completely bought on his fake because I think my eyes went right to the running back. And then Grayson James was already trotting down the field, and he had an 80-yard run. So he had his moments, but he also had a few turnovers as well. And a few passes I thought that were a little bit underthrown. But still, it's one practice. So where are we? In terms of practice right now, they're still in shells. So we're not even at the point of practice where everyone's hitting, everyone's playing at, much more closer to full speed. So it's still hard to analyze and say one guy is the leader. If you were at practice, the way it works is, I'm not going to tell you who's the 1s and 2s because, you know who the wide receivers are that you expect. You're expecting guys like Lewis Bond and Reed Harris. I think the staff has done an excellent job of giving both guys the opportunity to work with Reed Harris, Lewis Bond, Jeremiah Franklin, Turbo, and Alex Broom, depending on the situation. They switch them up. So neither guy is just stuck with one group. And the defenses are different too. So when I see things, and I mentioned this last week, when I see people posting just the raw stats, it's a little misleading because you don't know where those stats go against. Like, are they killing the second team defense? Are they killing, the starters? You don't know. So I think right now, I'm pretty confident to say things are even between Grayson James and Dylan Lonergan. We're not yet at the point where they're using pads. We haven't had a scrimmage yet. August is a long month. They're practicing 5 days a week. There's still so many practices before they get to game prep week for Fordham. And as I said, Mitch and I were talking about yesterday on yesterday's show, we don't even know if they're going to have a firm starter when it comes to the Fordham game. Are they going to, there's obviously the possibility that James and Lonergan are either switching drives or one does the first half, one does the, who knows? That's where things are at. And if you're here to get more quarterback news, Shaker Reisig is still in a boot. He has not practiced yet. And Enzo Njara is their backup third string quarterback, the quarterback behind the first two. And he is a walk-on from Monmouth. And I saw his name on that list when we first got the roster. I was like, who is this? He's a 5'10 quarterback. I assumed he was a walk-on. But he was getting a lot of play, and he plays a lot out there. And for what he does, he does a fine job. He's getting a lot of snaps because Reisig is not out there. But he's, the third guy. And then you have, a couple other guys that are walk-ons doing, they usually do the drill stuff with the wide receivers like Jake Congalio and Shane Hannafin. You see them kind of doing that kind of work. But Enzo, I just love that name. And the reason I need an excuse to talk about Enzo because I just love the name. He played at Monmouth, but he went to Monmouth after, his recruitment, but he camped at Alabama. And so Bill saw him there, and they just have stayed in touch. And so, when they had a spot open, Enzo reached out, said he'd walk on, and now you got this quarterback that's there. So that's a pretty cool story. You may not, as a fan, you're probably never going to see him play, but, he's doing a very valuable role with that offense, And I just wanted to make sure you guys knew about it because I don't want to gatekeep information. Like if there's stuff out there, I want you guys to know about it. Like my job here and Locked On BC and Eagle Insider is to bring all the info and everything I observe and give it to you so that you who can't go to practice because it's closed get to know all about it. So again, Dylan, slightly better day than Grayson. But more importantly for him, it's the incremental improvements I've seen since the beginning of camp are very clear with Dylan Lonergan. Now, in our second segment, Bill O'Brien mentions some freshmen. And I'm going to tell you who he mentions and who I've noticed who are starting to, maybe be a little bit more ahead of the curve when it comes to camp this so far. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. For me, my wife and I, we are still working on not spending so much money on going out to eat. We're tired. We don't want to cook. But you know what? It's also more important to save that money for times that we need it. And so Monarch has been able to help us track how much we're spending, make a goal on how much we want to get down to, and see if we're hitting that. It's an easy way for us to communicate and for our family to work on our finances. You can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black of Eagle Insider and host of this great podcast. And I want to shout out every everydayer out there that listens to Locked On Boston College 5 days a week. If you listen every day, you are my MVP, and I love to hear from each and every one of you. What it is you like about the show? Put it in the comment section. What is it that you get out of Locked On BC? Hit my comments up, and I'd love to hear from you what you like. And so the second piece that we want to talk about at camp, it feels great, by the way. I just love it. It's the Chamberlain Field outside of Fish Fieldhouse. That's where they're practicing. For many of you who are older alumni, myself included, it's the Shea Field. It's Shea Field. It used to be Shea Field. Many of you probably tailgated there, but now it's a practice facility. And so you sit out there. It's beautiful. There's a nice little hill I get to sit on and watch. And usually I'm watching the Grayson James and Dylan Lonergan led offenses. And then on the other side of the field are, some of the other players that are still working things out, whether it's freshmen or walk-ons or whatever. They're usually on the other side. And honestly, I want to see what guys that I expect to play are going to do. No, not a knock on the other kids. They're working hard too. But that's usually what I'm watching for. Now, there's been freshmen that are in my purview, guys that I've been able to watch. I've mentioned before, Griffin Collins is a name that I've been really impressed with this camp. He's a guy from Worcester Academy, a local recruit. I don't think he had any other offers, at least that he announced. But he, honestly, when I talk about guys that could develop into like the prototypical BC linebacker, the big like a Mike McLaughlin. That's a guy I look at Griffin Collins and say, like he's already like he's an early enrollee, but he's already starting to look like a college player. He had an interception the other day. He's all over the place. So love to see that. Now, Bill O'Brien, he had his players he wanted to shout out. And this is what the names that he brought out today during his press conference. He mentioned Dawson Pugh, that's how you say his name, wide receiver. Bo MacCormack, running back. Mekhi Dodd, running back. Kalen Chudzinski, tight end. Stevie Amara, tight end. Robert Smith, offensive lineman. TJ Green, cornerback, and Zachary Thomas, linebacker. So if you were looking for names of guys that are starting to show up, and I would think Shaker Reisig would be on that list too, he's just not practicing yet. But for me, watching so far, obviously it's hard without pads to see like how a defender is really looking. I just notice like when they make plays or they're in the backfield or doing things like that. I look a lot and I see certain things. Like I couldn't tell you that Robert Smith is doing good. Like he's an interior offensive lineman, and like it's just hard to tell. But Bo MacCormack, they got something there. Bo MacCormack is that running back for BB&N that flipped from Syracuse late in last season, and he looks like a really physical, big running back. Like he's not big yet. Like give him some time in the Craig Fitzgerald weight room, and I feel like he'll get even bigger. Like a turbo, right? I don't think he'll get that big, but he'll get bigger. But he runs physically. Like it's the way he approaches his runs. Like he's not afraid of contact. He doesn't get knocked down by contact, but he's also quick. There's something there, and I'm not sure if he'll have a role this year. PC usually rolls with like 3 running backs, and you already have 3. So with Day Jones, Day Jones moving to wide receiver, it opens up a spot. If someone gets hurt, it would be Bo MacCormack, I think. Like he looks good. Like every practice I've watched, whether it's on punt returns or as a running back, he's doing what you'd want. Like he just runs hard, and that's what I love seeing about him. Mekhi Dodd on Tuesday had a touchdown run too. He looked good. He looked physical as well. So I could see both of them. They're easy. I mean, obviously, like I'm talking about freshmen, you notice running backs are easy to notice if they're doing well because either they're getting hit really quick and you're not doing much, or they're making big plays. And I've seen more big plays out of them. Tight end with Stevie Amar is a little bit more up in the air because there's blocking, there's all sorts of things. And I've noticed him. He plays out there with like Grayson James and Dylan Lonergan at times. He looks very much like a college tight end, and one that I think will be a pass catching tight end, which is good because you're going to lose after this year. You're going to lose Jeremiah Franklin and Zeke Moore. You're going to need these guys to step up. So even if he's not ready this year, having both Kalen Chudzinski and Stevie Amar ready to go, you got some talent there that's hopefully ready to step in with Ty Lockwood next year. That's where the depth of tight ends starts to look good, right? TJ Green, I've seen, he's a guy that's definitely in the mix. I would think he's going to be a shoe-in for the 2 deep. I just feel like he's done a lot during camp and spring practice. Seeing him around a lot. I feel like, BC's depth is really deep. But you're going to need – guys get banged up, right? So TJ Green is speedy, He's on punt and kick returns. He's a guy that they're working with, guys along with like Cam Martinez, Turbo Richard, Ned Bolden, who's another freshman, and guys like that. We haven't seen VJ Wilkins at camp because he's dealing with a hamstring issue. So guys like TJ Green are just running with it. Now, the other names, I mentioned them, I think, a little bit with the secondary. Just watching and seeing guys make plays, Ashton Cunningham and Marcellus Townsend. I've noticed a lot of those two so far. These are cornerbacks. One's from Georgia, and the other one's from Union, Oklahoma. Cunningham was teammates with Shaker Reisig when they both committed. And they both look very like they're developing well. And the good thing with them is you could use them if you need to, but if you don't, you redshirt them, you get them an extra year. The fact that they're coming along means that they'll be ready and good to go, hopefully in a year. And if you have a spot like Cam Martinez is graduating, or Amari Jackson's graduating, you got some guys that are already starting to brew and get ready to go. So those are some of the freshmen. Of course, I would also be remiss if I did not mention Andy Quinn. Andy Quinn at practice, he is looking good. There's times where there's been a few punts where I'm sure he's not happy, but when the guys are taking, hundreds of reps and you're watching a lot of reps, they're going to make mistakes. It just happens, especially for freshmen. So I think he's just going to have to continue to grow and he'll improve. So he's one other one that I think I've noticed as well. Zachary Thomas, I haven't seen a whole lot of, watching the guys that I get to watch. So I'm not sure, maybe he's impressing with the film. The great thing with the Shea Field, or Chamberlain Field now, and they got these light posts and they have cameras on them so that Bill can watch, O'Brien and his staff can watch the practices that they're not parts of practice they're not absolutely watching at that point. So maybe he's seen stuff there too that I just haven't been able to see. So that was just my little discussion. I know some of you always are curious how these freshmen are looking. Those are the ones I've noticed. Now, Ned Bolden also, I've talked to him about him a lot. Like, he's a guy that's out there a lot. And I feel like he, especially on Tuesday when Lewis Bond didn't practice, VJ Wilkins didn't practice, and I haven't seen John Montague in a while. You've got a guy like Bolden. He's going to play a big role. I think he's just someone that you're going to see this summer and fall. Now, in our final segment, got two things I want to talk to you about, and a little bonus thing that I'm going to a bonus segment that I want to talk to provide you as we start up the football season. So we'll talk kickers, two staff members, and then my little fun thing in just a moment. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here of Eagle Insider. And to all of you who I want to challenge you. If you like Boston College sports, make Locked on Boston College your first listen every day. Whether you're, getting lunch ready for your kids or you're in the car, turn on Locked on BC. I'll give you the good stuff that you need to know so that when you're tailgating with your friends, you're like, hey, AJ told me this because he was at practice. You guys didn't know about that. You're going to sound smarter. You'll be a better BC fan. I'll tell you that right now. All right, let's talk kickers. I just discussed punting a little bit, but I think there's another positional battle, and that's the kicker position. Last year we saw Liam Connor. He went 3 of 5, or the team went 3 of 5, worst in the nation in terms of kick attempts, and the kicking was just completely non-existent. Whenever BC was anywhere close to being in a position where they could go for it, they just went for it, and that was because Luca Lombardo, their starting kicker, was out after an injury that he sustained against Michigan State. Now at camp this year, you get these special team segments, and every practice is different. I've seen special team segments where they're doing punting. I've seen ones with kick returns. Yesterday was field goal. So Sunday, excuse me. And it was Luca Lombardo, Liam Connor, and Sam Stone. And so I think when we're looking at kicking, Liam Connor he's done a lot. And maybe he's your place kicker, or maybe he finds a way to do some field goals. But man, Luca Lombardo needs to be your place kicker because he just got a good leg. I feel like he's as close to consistent as you're going to get in college football. And I've liked what I've seen so far from him. But I got to say too, I've only got to see one session so far of him. So there's more, and I'm sure they do stuff where I don't get to see it because, I'm watching this thing and they're practicing kicking in the field. So, like, there's a lot going on, and there's only one AJ. So that was something I wanted to bring up too. We haven't really discussed kickers in depth. And so, kicking is going to be so crucial to this season. Being able to get those 3 points and making sure you don't mess up the extra point, which has been like the curse of Boston College football, is going to be critical. You just have to do the little things when you're a team like BC. As O'Brien said it on Saturday, like, we're a team that can't just give up points. We're a team that has to not play. We need to play as close to mistake-free football and let other teams screw up. And that's a good model to use, but when you're screwing up constantly on special teams, you're not living that creed. So that's going to be something to watch for. Now, the second thing I wanted to discuss with you as we wrap up our episode is 2 new members of the staff. And now, there could be new names that are coming along that you just don't care about, right? Like, maybe there's some, grad assistant that's there, and I think there's one from some school. I forget which school it was. That's a grad assistant, and they come every year. If it was a name that you wanted to know, I'd talk about it. Now, I honestly don't remember if I've actually brought this up on the show, but Tyler Vrabel is on the staff. He was on the staff this spring, and from what I gathered, it was only supposed to be like a spring internship kind of thing. Like, he was going to learn a little bit about coaching and then go back to, I think it was probably going back to football, because he's bounced around in the NFL, and then that would be the end of it. Well, lo and behold, Tyler Vrabel is still with the team, and they've put him on as an offensive line consultant. He works with Matt Applebaum. I've been able to talk to the kids. They love that he's there. I mentioned it to Dwayne Alec, who was teammates, which again shows his age, with Vrabel while he was here. And, the big thing is Vrabel knows Matt Applebaum, and everyone, and you may not be the biggest Matt Applebaum fan. Players are, whether it's Zion Johnson, Alec Lindstrom, the guys that are on the team this year, Ben Petrula, Ozzie Trapillo, they all speak so highly. I mean, Trapillo just did the other day of Matt Applebaum. And so Tyler Vrabel knows the Applebaum lingo. He knows, his vocabulary. And so this is a slam dunk. You're getting a kid of Vrabel, whose dad is obviously coaching down the road in Foxborough. And in doing that, you're also bringing in a guy that's smart, who's played at the league. It's a great hire for BC. And it's just for, I don't know how long he's going to stay or what the situation is, but it's great to see him back. I love seeing former Boston College players on a staff. And that leads me to the final one. Kamari Morales, who was just on the team last year, is working in recruiting for BC. I saw it on social media. I saw he changed his Twitter picture to him in like a suit, and it changed his bio to recruiting consultant or recruiting assistant. And so I asked Bill O'Brien about it on Tuesday, and he said Morales is still pushing to try to get to the NFL. But while he's doing that, he wanted a job because he also sees himself working as an administrator or coach when he gets out of, the professional days. So he's working as working in recruiting, and everyone loved him last year. It seemed like he was a great guy. They have him on the staff. So again, these are 2 new BC players. We saw Will Blackman last year that are back to work with the staff. And they're great to see, just, new guys coming back and doing this kind of work if that's what they're looking for. So it's a great opportunity and something you could sell to recruits too. I mean, I don't know if you could sell it to recruits because you're thinking like most of these kids think they're all going to go to the NFL, but it's also realistic to think too, like maybe if they're there that like, hey, I'm not going to get there, but I could be a coach if I like coaching, and Bill may give me an opportunity there. Now, I have a question for you. This is our new segment of the day, and this is to reward our everydayers, all of you that listen every single day, because I have a trivia question. And if you get it right, I'm going to shout you out on Thursday's show. My question, and if you cheat, I know, so don't cheat. That kind of ruins the fun. My question for you is, who has the most single season rushing touchdowns in Boston College history? Put it in the comment section here. So in your comments, say, this is who I think. most rushing touchdowns in Boston College history. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Put in the comments. I will shout you out on Thursdays if you're correct. Thank you all for following. My name is AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider. Follow along with me on Twitter at AJBlack247 or on Instagram, on YouTube. I mean, everywhere. I'm so socially media savvy. I'm on everything, whether it's Thread, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Find me there. Get all your Boston College news, and you can connect with me there too if you want to. I'll see you all again on Thursday for another show as we'll wrap up. We'll continue to discuss Wednesday's practice and anything new. I think they may have pads on. We'll find out then. This is AJ Black, and we'll see you again soon for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.